Others have done, we estimate there could have been from 2,500 to 20,000 different kinds of animals taken aboard Noah's Ark.
Each family of creatures on the earth today have a single pair of ancestors. For example, even though there are over 300 varieties of dogs in the world today due to selective breeding, they have a single common ancestor. Considering the number of kinds of animals required to be put aboard the Ark, there would have been ample room to load the ancestors of all the species we know today, with room left over for Noah's family, food, and supplies.
Someone was needed to piece together some of the 25,000 clay cuneiform tablets unearthed in the ancient city of Nineveh dating back to the 6th century BC.
The next 10 years of my life were spent putting together these ancient clay tablets, but it was more than a complicated jigsaw puzzle. The inscriptions I translated from those tablets had a profound effect on the world of archaeology.
In 1872, after a decade of work, Smith came upon an account of a ship surviving a great flood and its coming to rest on a mountain, of a dove being sent out and not finding a place to land. The story told in these tablets, known as the Gilgamesh epic, paralleled exactly the story of Noah in the Bible, suggesting the biblical account is far more than a fictional legend. George Smith's startling findings stirred great scientific curiosity and rekindled enormous public interest about the Ark and its possible discovery. In 1876, James Bryce, a highly regarded British statesman, jurist, and author, journeyed to Mount Ararat. There, Bryce began the first recorded solo attempt to scale the mountain. On his trek, he discovered a 4-foot-long, 5-inch thick, partially petrified piece of hand-hewn timber. It was found at the snow-covered 14,000-foot level. Major newspapers of the day, including the New York Times, published Bryce's story, indicating his discovery of Noah's Ark. But Darwin's new theory of evolution was just then gaining in popularity. The Bryce account, which supported traditional religious thought, was largely ignored.
I showed this picture, and I had asked the question, is it historical to say that they would put a stone and roll it away? Not just a stone, but roll it away in front of a sepulcher? I mean, this just isn't a big rock. This is a round-shaped rock. Would they do that? Well, sure looks like it. Why would I be able to not believe that? The Ark of Noah. I mean, these are just some of the examples, some of the seals they found in the Bible. King Ahaz, the Ammon seal. All the scriptures line up with the seals that many of those kings had. When Israel was in bondage, in slavery, in Mesopotamia, which was Babylon, and the Persians came over and took the kingdom from Babylon, like Daniel prophesied. And Daniel prophesied that the Greeks would also take that kingdom away from the Persians. When the Persians were at the height of their power, Cyrus, the Bible said, made a decree and said all the Jews that are in slavery would be allowed to go back to the promised land and rebuild the temple. They found the Cyrus cylinder, and on this cylinder it says in a Persian language, Medo-Persian language, Cyrus the king gave permission for Jews to return to their land and rebuild the temple. On this very stone seal right here, it's called the Cyrus cylinder because it's round. This is where they buried Cyrus of Persia. Isaiah said said in the book of Isaiah that before Cyrus was born, that Cyrus, the king of Persia, would give a decree to allow the Jews to return to the Holy Land. And that's exactly what happened in history. I mean, remember we preached here just a little while ago, why is it that evolutionists are saying, well, you know, I don't believe in the flood, and I don't believe in creation. And remember in the book of Peter it says, in the last days, scoffers are going to deny the flood, and they're going to deny the Creator. So who are those scoffers? The Bible says in the last days they're going to deny the flood, they're going to deny creation, the old world that then was. Well, it's Bubblehead there with the beard. What was his name? He started evolution. Darwin, man! Darwin started the theory of evolution. He's the father of the scoffers. And now every evolutionist does not believe in the flood because they don't believe in the Creator. That's what the Bible says in the last days. No, that's only 200 years ago. The last days, scoffers are coming. They're going to deny the old world that was, that God created the old world, and they're going to deny Noah's flood. That's in the book of Peter. Well, that's what they're doing today. Well, in that old world, men lived up to 900 years. How do I know that? Even if I don't have a Bible, I can prove that with this cylinder block right here that they've uncovered before the flood. And it mentions how their kings and people lived long lives in the thousands of years. The city of Jericho. There's no debate as to if or was there a city of Jericho. There's a museum there. We can go there today and see the city of Jericho. What about, somebody said, well, I have a hard time believing in the Bible. Do you believe in Bethlehem? Yeah? How do you know that? Well, there's a Bethlehem there today. Oh, well, that's mentioned in the Bible. What about Jordan, Jerusalem, Megiddo, the land of Armageddon, the valley of Armageddon? You believe in that? Well, yeah. How do you know that? Well, it's still there today. Well, mentioned in the Bible. Oh, if you can prove to me one thing in the Bible, I'll believe. Grab his nose and you squish it really hard, and he'll say, what are you doing? The Bible says, the wringing of the nose bringeth forth blood.
When it comes to the design and construction of the biblical ark, there are several important reasons it could not have existed. First, the technology needed simply did not exist. Second, any modern vessel today would have certainly foundered in far less weather conditions than the biblical deluge. It is highly unlikely Noah's wooden ark would have survived more than a few hours under such conditions.
To examine this issue ourselves, we took a model of the ark to a marine laboratory to see how it would handle waves and other hydraulic stresses. When subjected to the irregular waves generally found on the ocean, the ark was deemed not only seaworthy, but exceptionally stable. Then the test tank duplicated waves equivalent to 200-foot tidal waves. Again, the ark was not only seaworthy, but extraordinarily stable.
You can show that the balance between the buoyant force and the gravitational force and the wave force and so on would be such that the ark would right itself if it were tilted anywhere up to 90 degrees, anywhere from 0 to 90 degrees, in other words. The righting effect would be such that it would just come right back up again. It'd be practically impossible to capsize.
In 1902, George Hagopian, an 8-year-old Armenian boy from Lake Van, Turkey, became the youngest ark eyewitness on record. Young George had accompanied his uncle onto Mount Ararat. This was a summer of particularly warm weather, making the ark both visible and easily accessible to the young boy and his uncle.
It was huge to see, larger even than any building I had ever seen. My uncle was going to lift me on top, but we had to pile up rocks in order to reach it.
Then George was boosted up and was able to reach the roof of the vessel.
Members of my family had told us stories about coming to the ark, and now here I was, actually standing on it. Nearby, I could see a hole had been cut in the roof. So I went to it and looked inside. It was just too dark in there to see anything at all. There were pieces broken off here and there, but it was still very solid to walk on. Along the side of the raised section in the middle, there were openings like windows, but there was nothing I could see.
Years after the event, George Hagopian described what he had seen to archaeological illustrator Dr. Alfred Lee.
Up here, George Hagopian, after a 4-year drought, went up with his uncle and saw the ark completely exposed. He also noticed along the side here the wood grain, beautifully fitted joints with wooden dowels. He could see the color of the grain. It was not a stone formation. It was definitely a man-made wooden construction.
All these pieces of beams and wooden planking gleaned from the slopes of Ararat over the centuries seems to beg a question. Being so old, what kind of condition could the ark be in now?
There's been a tremendous earthquake. There's been a great crevasse created here, and a